So I'd first like to thank Dean Datar, the HBS faculty and staff, and the class of 2025 for having me. And special thanks to Class Day co-chairs, Jordan Thomas and Sarah Zia. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and coming back to campus always fills me with joy. Congratulations, HBS class of 25. You've aced the first quartile of your life. Now tell me, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? You all are familiar with the words of poet Mary Oliver. Today, I want to give you my cheat sheet to answer Mary's call. The first part is a roadmap to maximize your career potential. And the second part advises on how to demonstrate leadership in this crazy world awaiting you. The core principle to follow in order to maximize your trajectory, your chances to win, however you define it, comes from sports, a primary through line of my entire life. Although I was a good college basketball player at Yale, I was on teams that underachieved. So most of my professional insights about what it takes to win come from losing. But I also raised two children who taught me a lot about winning. My daughter Kiki just led her UCLA women's basketball team to a Big Ten championship, a #1 seed in the NCAA tournament, and a spot in the Final Four. My son Teo, who is here today, captained the Yale basketball team this season that won 4 Ivy League championship rings and went to the NCAA tournament 3 times. The most important insight that I gained from playing basketball, from coaching up my kids, and working several years at the NBA is that winning on the most competitive stages almost always comes down to how well you adhere to the most fundamental team sports coaching principle. Do what you do best and don't try to do too much. The do what you do best part means make your career and your life a relentless pursuit to identify and maximize your world-class genius gifts. Notice that I did not say follow your passion or play to your strengths. I said identify and maximize your world-class genius gifts. Let me share a bit about my journey to help illustrate. After HBS, I cut my teeth for about 4 years at Disney, and then was a rising executive at the NBA. I was advancing quickly, and I was confident I'd found my sweet spot. I was also spending nights and weekends, raising money and piloting programming for a nonprofit that I conceived as a second year at HBS that's called MLT, focusing on fixing the broken pipeline of diverse private and social sector leaders. The voice inside of me kept saying, Johnny, you might be the best person in the world to tackle this. If not you, who? I couldn't articulate why, but my intuition came from having experienced the problem I aspired to solve. 9 or 10 years after HBS, I was living in Tokyo and leading NBA Japan, my first big test as a general manager. I was still unclear what I did best, what my biggest gift was. But I had reached clarity on a couple things. First, MLT was only going as far as my capacity to commit to it. There would be no breakthroughs as a part-time founder, only more stress. And second, if I left the NBA to focus full-time on MLT and it failed, I was confident I could always go out and get a good job somewhere else. So I pulled the plug on the NBA, moved to the Bay Area to be with my new wife, Andrea, and dedicated myself fully to MLT. It took me several more years as a full-time social entrepreneur to finally uncover what my genius gift was. I went through a several-week process of surveying the people who knew me. After synthesizing the feedback with a few close friends from YPO, one of them said, Johnny, your genius gift is your ability to see other people's genius gifts, even before they can see them. In that moment, it all finally clicked. This breakthrough answered for me the key question that I hope you can one day answer for yourself. That building an organization whose core competency was coaching individuals to their full potential was the ideal vehicle to maximize my genius gift. So how's my story instructive for your journeys? Well, first, think about how specific a genius gift is. It's not the actual things you do so well. It's the underlying skill or attribute that enables you to do those things so well. Second, you are unlikely to figure it out on your own or through some course, because it often takes other people who know you really well, personally and professionally, to observe those gifts in action. So that means you must navigate your career towards roles that put your gifts on display for others to see. The second half of that sports principle, do what you do best and don't try to do too much, is just as critical to maximizing your potential. I was probably trying to do too much in the first 10 years of my post-HBS career by moonlighting as a social entrepreneur while at Disney and the NBA. I got away with it because I was single, had no kids, and my parents were still healthy. Just as MLT was taking off, I again thought I could juggle two big things. I started a tech company with a couple of partners, an online career coaching platform that built upon the insights that I had gained from growing MLT. But at this point, I was married with 2 young kids, and soon after, both my parents fell seriously ill, requiring me and my sister to manage their care. The company ultimately failed, and worse, it failed after we successfully raised millions of capital from a great group of investors. So the lesson for you is that even when you're operating in the sweet spot of your genius gifts, being overly ambitious or trying to do too much can put the most important things in your life at risk. Once I owned that setback and refocused all my efforts on MLT, not coincidentally, the organization flourished. As Sarah mentioned, we transformed the career and economic trajectories of 15,000 people, and well over 1,000 have already become senior leaders. 90% of our 2,500 college students each year get jobs averaging $90K starting salaries, which delivers immediate economic mobility for their families whose average household income is $60K. 700 MLTers are startup founders, and 15 MLTer-led venture capital firms have raised $3.5 billion collectively. And 50% of the Black, Hispanic, and Native American students at the top business schools are MLTers. And shout out to all 56 of you who are in this HBS graduating class. And we employ a tremendous, highly diverse staff of 300 who make this magic happen. So I wish I could end it here and tell you that if you find your genius gifts and you don't try to do too much, you will realize your potential. But this world you are graduating into calls upon you to do more. You must lead others to their potential too, because breakthrough achievements are always a collective endeavor, a team sport. Organizations are at their best when they get the most out of every person's talent. And that only happens when they are true meritocracies for everyone. Each of you must understand what that looks like in this time of unprecedented change. You are graduating into a world that feels more unsettling than ever before. AI is changing everything. Its promise is breathtaking. Its peril, existential. There's massive uncertainty and unpredictability. The geopolitical order is being redefined, and long-held truths are being challenged. For the first time in your lifetime, we are seeing the deliberate dismantling of what we grew up believing were America's differentiating strengths, including scientific research, our unmatched alliances abroad, the foundations that make the American dream of economic mobility possible for everyone, and the world's best, most globally accessible higher education system. And when Harvard's leading the resistance, you know the world is upside down. Shout out to Harvard. So what does outstanding leadership look like today? I am confident that the highest impact leaders will be those who are expert in attracting, retaining, and developing the best talent. Those who build and sustain truly meritocratic organizations. You know, meritocracy is no longer just a management buzzword. It has become the central battleground in the ongoing debate over America's core identity and values. Let me provide some context because there's a lot of nuance here. There's been a simmering tension behind the scenes for the last 25 years in our companies, law firms, and universities. The narrative that increasing diversity somehow risks or compromises the excellence-based meritocracy that got these institutions to where they are today. That narrative has always been a false one, but it was never broadly challenged until most US employers, in the wake of George Floyd's murder, put out statements opposing racism in all forms. CEOs were surprised and shocked when their employees, both people of color and white, reacted negatively, telling their CEOs that while their statements were appreciated, you can't stand up against racism externally while allowing the long tails of racism to fester internally. Employees were essentially saying that their playing field was far from level, only meritocratic for some people. That led to a flurry of activities to move the needle on workplace inclusion and underrepresentation. But those efforts created the perception among some folks that opportunity was being taken away from them rather than expanding the pie, the prosperity pie for everyone. This, despite the data from the most trusted places like McKinsey, that clearly shows that people who are in the majority were not being disadvantaged. Extremists on the right pounced on this perception gap and launched a multi-pronged campaign to hijack the concept of meritocracy and convince us that any effort to advance opportunity for anyone who's not a straight white Christian male is both anti-meritocratic and discriminates against those white males. You've seen the tweets and heard the BS rhetoric, unfortunately, even from HBS graduates that know better, that insisting that a white woman or a person of color who ascends to a position of power, by definition, did not get there on their merits. They are a DEI hire. Or if you're a woman, a religious minority, gay, or a person of color and get accepted to a top business school, by definition, you must be less qualified. They are preying upon the confusion and the insecurities of even the most well-intentioned, best educated men about what is and what is not meritocratic. So you all, class of 2025, need to become well-informed about what a genuine meritocracy looks like if you are going to become excellent leaders. It is accurate to say that an organization is a meritocracy if one's performance, the quality of one's work alone, drive their success or failure. It's one where excellence is recognized and rewarded. But there's one critical assumption underlying this, that the playing field is actually level. And unfortunately, that assumption is false. The reality is that the playing field is only level if everyone has the opportunity to get there on their merits, and if everyone has that genuine confidence that they belong there. Let me say that again. A meritocratic workplace is one where everyone has the genuine confidence that they belong. What you need to understand is that no matter how talented you are, and even if you went to the same schools and worked in similar organizations, when you start out as one of one or one of a few in every meeting of every day, you don't necessarily have that genuine confidence that you belong. Instead, you spend a disproportionate amount of your mental bandwidth distracted by questions such as, do they assume that I am not as good as the others? And if I make a mistake, will that reflect on all those who look like me? To help you understand what that feels like and to have some fun with you all, let me take a quick audience poll of everyone, including parents and friends. So here's the setup. So you're at a wedding of the daughter of an important work colleague, and that colleague requests that you join them on the dance floor for their favorite R&B song. Okay? I want you all to give me a thumbs up if you are excited to get out on the dance floor because I'm gonna look good because I got some moves, right? Thumbs up. And then if you're, I want you to give me a thumb sideways if you're like, hey, this is not quite my sweet spot, but I will hold my own enough not to draw attention to myself. So these are the sideways folks. And then give me a thumbs down if you are dreading it because you may look uncoordinated to the point where folks might have a lasting memory and maybe tease you about it later. Okay, so here we go. Thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Okay, show me a thumb sideways. Right? All right, and those of you, let's be honest, be open here. Show me a thumbs down. Not your thing. Okay. I see Srikant over there is thumbs up. I'd love to see that. We might have to test you about that tonight on the dance floor. If I asked those of you who gave a thumbs down to describe the feeling inside as you walk out onto that dance floor, I would hear words like awkward, being judged, no confidence, and that Southwest Airlines tagline, want to get away. But for those of us who are the only one or one of a very few in our workplace, those same descriptors capture exactly how we feel in every meeting of every day. So if I'm feeling every day the way those you thumbs down folks are feeling when you hit the dance floor, and I'm competing every day with my colleagues who have that thumbs up feeling in every meeting, then that is not a level playing field. And that cannot be a meritocracy. Instead, unfortunately, it's still a foot race across a minefield to develop that genuine confidence you belong before you make enough mistakes to get you branded as a B or C player. And the stakes of that foot race are high for your career, for your family's economic security, and for your mental health. Because when it comes to your job, you can't just smile, walk off the dance floor, grab a drink, and tell your colleague, I'm glad I won't have to do that again for a while. Often, this is nobody's fault. It's very rarely deliberate racism or sexism. It's just the reality of where we are today on the journey to meritocracy. The problem that you all, class of 2025, the problem that you all can help fix is that too many of today's most admired leaders continue to miss what is going on. And when you miss what's going on, you don't take the actions that would truly address the root causes. Instead, you misread the performance and retention data, and you actually spread the cancerous narrative further. So I encourage all of you to create the conditions in your future organizations that enable everyone who has that thumbs down dance floor feeling to develop the genuine confidence that they belong. And the how-to is pretty simple. Just apply the same high level of rigor to talent management that your organizations already require in every other part of your business. Whether that's M&A, AI, strategy, cybersecurity, customer experience. That rigor includes taking steps that level the playing field so you can have a meritocracy for everyone. And these steps, and frankly, it doesn't matter what we call them, diverse talent initiatives, coaching and mentoring programs, whatever, these steps are not threats to meritocracy. Instead, they are the scaffolding that allows meritocracy to flourish. And when meritocracy flourishes, democracy endures. So if I were your AI agent, I would summarize by reminding you of three things as you enter this daunting world. Focus relentlessly on identifying your genius gifts and build your career around those gifts. Don't try to do too much, even when you're operating in the sweet spot of your genius gifts. And third, now that you are a little better informed about what a true meritocracy feels like, don't fall for the BS narratives out there. At this pivotal juncture in our world, be someone who moves your organizations and your respective nations forward, closer to being meritocracies for everyone. Thank you, congratulations, class of 25, and I hope you celebrate with plenty of thumbs up and thumbs down dancing over the next few days.